Good day to you, Guyana, and welcome to Facing the Nation. I am Malika Ramsey. Thank you very much for joining us. Of course, we're a little late today. You know, we're still battling with some traffic. What is a traffic fiasco in our city? As you know, Channel 6 is located in the heart of what happens with traffic at these hours. But nevertheless, we're here, so we're going to have about 45 minutes of programming today because of that late start. My program today, as usual, is divided into two parts. On the first part of our program, we will be focusing on the Guyana Public Service Union and those snap elections that would have been held yesterday. That conversation promises to be very interesting because one of the guests we have, he's returning, Mr. Jermaine Hermanstein. He was here a few weeks ago with Karen Van Slytman. They're both public servants. Today, Jermaine is joined by Miss Shelfra Torrington. She is the Assistant Secretary Treasurer of the Bureau of Statistics GPSu branch. So she's here with Jermaine. Welcome to Facing the Nation to both of you.
Well, thank you for having us, Malika.
Right, okay.
It is always a pleasure being here.
All right, great. On the second half of the program, this is following this conversation, I'll be talking with a team from the University of Guyana, and the focus of that conversation will be the School of Entrepreneurship and Business Innovation. It's a three-member team. Of course, a part of that team has to be the Vice Chancellor, Professor Ivelog Griffith, but you'll hear about that a little later on in the program. Jermaine, let's talk about the GPSu, what's happening. The GPSu has made the news and continues to make the news. Now, in a sense, what is a surprising thing? Well, it would have been surprising before 2 or 3 days ago, the snap elections that were held yesterday. Let's talk about the snap elections and everything surrounding and leading up to that since this entire situation began with the GPSu.
Well, Malika, the current situation as it is that only a few days ago, the judge in which the injunction, who had granted the injunction, has discharged the injunction. And he has discharged it on the grounds in which he felt that while there were anomalies, there is the fact that the elections and the running of the union is important for the membership. He also made it clear that he recognized that this case is to be heard on the 10th of May at 2 o'clock in front of Justice Bihari, and he's saying that all of the issues will be able to be cleared up there. However, in the best interest of the union, he's allowing the elections to continue. But initially, what on the grounds that we stopped the election was the fact that there were no treasurer's report as well as there was no auditor report. What the union submitted was a report by which the president of the union signed and the general secretary along with 2 trustees. That in itself, it is not a treasurer's report because obviously a treasurer will have to sign on a report giving ownership of it. It never occurred. So when that happened and it was presented to the judge made a decision in which we felt it was a miscarriage of justice. Nevertheless, we see it as a minor setback because this does not stop us from doing what we want to do. But in the interim, what Patrick Yard did was call a snap election. Within 2 days, he called an election.
And that is constitutionally in line?
No. Well,
no,
actually,
Shelfra, I'd like to bring Shelfra in here too.
No, the rule says that after the publication of the final nomination list, 2 weeks clear, then the election is supposed to be held. And to date, nobody got a published final nomination list. So the election, whether snap or rail, would still be illegal.
It's still illegal?
Yes.
All right. Jermaine, because I was reading earlier today that those results are not necessarily expected until a few weeks from now. Am I correct?
No. The results is likely, as a matter of fact, the results of the election should have been made available the night of the day of the election. By the night, you should have had the election.
But as we speak now, no results have been
no
publicized.
official results have been publicized. And the reason for that is that you got to understand that the election officer and as well as the assistant election officer, in our view, did not get the opportunity to do the necessary groundwork to have a proper running of the election. As a matter of fact, there are many places who did not get an opportunity to vote They didn't even know that there was an election. They had the people in Region 5 who said that they were waiting to see a ballot box. No ballot box came, and therefore they did not get an opportunity to vote. But I'm sure in the eyes of the election officer, he will tell you that it was a good
Who's
good
the
election.
election officer?
Mr. Herman D'Souza.
Okay. When those results are made public, and of course the media is going to be in the middle of it and all of that, what next? What is the next step? Because I gathered the last conversation we had, and of course when you were accompanied by Ms. Karen Van Slytman Corbin, I gathered that really and truly you have had enough, and of course for reasons that you want to see change in the Guyana Public Service Union. When those results come out and it basically return, if it does, return Mr. Yard to office, what's next?
Well, let me say that I don't think that Yard would be returning to office, even though there are many irregularities.
Even though those elections are illegal?
Exactly. Persons voted overwhelmingly in support of Gregory Gasper because they just do not want to see Patrick Yard.
But
when we look at the numbers, when we look at the numbers coming in, for example, we've actually had the Georgetown Public Hospital. We've had a massive win there. We have overwhelming support at GRA, Guyana Revenue Authority. The numbers is 16 Patrick Yard got to 96, right? And it continue all around Georgetown that this is happening. As it relates to the outlying areas, those are the areas that clearly there's lots of discrepancies. Like for example, in region 6, the person who brought ballot box and so on, and I was actually heard over saying that they padded the box by 70 votes in favor of Patrick Yard. Right? You got the people in Linden where 4 boxes went up, but the people, they were so disenfranchised and they're disenchanted that they really did not participate in a major way in that election. So out of 4 boxes, you only had 1 box, 3 empty boxes came back. Right? So you had a small amount of people that participated in Linden. But if you look at it on the periphery, you would recognize that based on the numbers that is there on the ground, we are ahead. As a matter of fact, 1 out of 9 boxes, 1 box was open. When we did the count on the 1 box, Gregory Gasper is leading by a very large margin.
Okay, let me pause right there. Even before you come in, Shelfra, and I'm going to come back to Mr. Gaskin. I'm going to come back to Mr. Gasper, in a moment. Why would Mr. Yard call a snap elections if he's not confident of a win?
Now, that is a very, very important question. The reason for that, it is because the matter that we have in court, that is to be held on the 10th of May, it is on the grounds that they have to have an auditor report, an up-to-date auditor report, as well as a treasury report. That is in keeping with the rules. He recognized that if there's an election, he perhaps could get elected. And even though the outcome of that matter may likely not go in his favor, he will still remain president, which is far from reality. Because the truth about it is that once these requirements are not met, according to Rule 13, it says shall be audited by the 1st of May every year. Shall in law is mandatory. So if there is a breach of that, it means that even though he may have been elected, whether he's been elected legally or not, the bottom line, it still remains that you have to look at the organization and whether the organization is operating within the ambits of the law that is set out there. And it is not. As a matter of fact, what you have before you is the union is being in danger of being struck off. Right? Because you have almost over 12 years or 13 years of the union not being audited. And just to compound that, when the union presented documents in court to show that there was an audit of some kind, the statements, the treasurer did not sign because there's no treasurer. There's no treasurer in the union for the last decade. The assistant treasurer, he recognized that he's not going to compromise his integrity, so he resigned.
Okay. All
right. So I mean, the union, it's in a state of a mess currently.
All right. Shelfie, you want to jump in?
Yeah, just to follow up, when you asked, should Patrick Yard return into the position?
What?
I think in our preparation to the election after the injunction was discharged, we did discuss that, and so what we're looking at in participating in the election is the discrepancy and the different irregularity to the rules and regulations that's supposed to govern the election. The reason why German and myself was late here is because I was out there since about 6:30 this morning to relieve my colleagues who would have slept out there last night, and we were told we cannot enter the building until the election officer arrives. And here it is, the election officer just arrived. So, and boxes are coming, and he's supposed to be the person collecting these boxes, and because he's responsible for the ballots in the boxes, but he's not there to collect. So right away it is clear that our boxes are compromised
already.
So what Patrick Yard did for themselves is just open themselves to blows, because if you're supposed to be responsible for the boxes and you're supposed to be there, then should Patrick win, you not only compromise yourself, you compromise the whole structure of the organization, which is one of the things that we will be discussing at our case on Monday, on the 10th, right? So, because we're trying to get the rules to be observed. You can't run disorder. You will not get anywhere. And right now, as it is, we're in a disorder.
Okay, I'm looking at our time. I want to talk about how all of this, because Monday, the 1st of May, is.
Yes.
I want to talk about how all of this is going to affect those activities. But before I do that, German, I want to come back to you for a bit. Mr. Gasper, he is the candidate that the majority. Why? What can he bring? What is he expected to bring different from, apart from the fact that Mr. Yard has been there for 3 decades, what new is Mr. Gasper expected to bring, and why have you all, in a sense,
show
your support behind him?
Well, let me say this. Mr. Gasper has been the chairman of the GGMC branch for the last 7 years. I was able to work with Mr. Gasper when I was at the union. And what we've achieved in the last 3 years, Patrick Yard have never been able to achieve in the last 20 years. If you go to GGMC and look at GGMC and you ask them when we had the industrial unrest, right? Patrick Yard was nowhere. Patrick Yard was in Miami, right through the action. Patrick Yard, when he finally came, he went to his home and he would be communicating by way of telephone, as well as he would come late in the afternoon to go in his office, and that is where he wants to work. As a matter of fact, when a proposal came to the workers at GGMC, Patrick Yard actually had a document in which he were pushing to the members of GGMC to accept a proposal which was far less than what it is that they wanted. But the members stood, they said they are not going to accept this because this is not why they came out. Right? And eventually, we went through, rain, sun, we went through. And then we were able to achieve what it is that we want to achieve. So, Gregory Gasper, not only by virtue of the fact that he's a leader within that organization, but also his ability to go in these rough times, he has been a pillar. He has stood out among his peers, right? And we felt that while it is that Patrick Yard to play games to say whether my standing with or the Bureau Stats local standing with the organization is legal or illegal, we know for a fact that there's no way that he can say Gregory Gasper is tainted, because this is one of the most active and the strongest branch within the Guyana Public Service Union. So we felt that it was prudent to ensure that when we go in to this election, we're going to get Patrick Yard out. Now, anybody who have followed my career over the years, they will know that Jermaine Hormanstein only planned in a strategic way to come out victorious.
All right, great. I want to get to those activities, the May Day activities. How is all of this, and Shelfer, here's where I bring you back into the conversation. How is all of this going to affect what is expected or what traditionally happens come Monday?
Well, as it is, I know our branch, they had a meeting scheduled at the Secretariat for the May Day activity, and we did not take part because, remember, we're against Patrick and the executive, so we did not take part in that. But as it right now, to say what decision will be taken would be unfair to really public it because there's a number of things weighing on what decision going to be taking place for May Day. Because if Patrick, for any reason, I can't say Mr. D'Souza because we know for sure it's Patrick really running the show for the election. If Patrick should declare himself win, right, I know for sure the Bureau of Statistics branch and GGMC will be out with our picket guards on May Day.
Not the usual marching?
No, we'll be out on May Day with our picket guards.
But let me also say this. While it is that we will be disgruntled about the transparency of it, we also recognize that May Day is a national holiday, and we recognize that it is not the day that represent people within the public service, but within the country as a whole.
Yes,
and therefore,
workers.
we want to be a part of it because we want to show recognition to our forefathers who have struggled to make this day possible. And therefore, it is bigger than Patrick Yard or any one person. Right? So we will be a part of it.
We'll be out.
Right?
Yeah.
We will be a part of it.
Form?
But
yeah, I know you can't make everything public.
Yes,
at this point.
but our intention is not in any way, shape, or form to cause any problems on the day, right? That will be seen in a way as if this does not represent labor. We want to ensure that the workers and our forefathers is properly represented, and the struggle that they fought for are represented on that day.
All right, we just have about 1 more minute before I wrap up. Before I have to wrap up this discussion, just for clarity, upon the publicizing of those results, the election results, should we be seeing? If there is a change, would it be the president, Mr. Yard himself alone, who will probably be removed because of election, or would it be the entire executive body?
It depends on the results.
Well, exactly.
It depends on the results because for every position, there is somebody running against a person who is associated with Mr. Yard.
And the people who are running against the current executive this time, do you have as much confidence in them that you do in Mr. Gaspar?
Yes, well, because most of them are GGMC staff.
Okay.
We do.
Actually, they were. I left some of them out there. Just waiting. The first vice was out there.
Okay, well, that's all right. We forgive you for being late. Facing the Nation forgives you because we want you to return. Unfortunately, folks. German, I think you wanted to get one last thing in. Go ahead.
I just want to make this point. The last time I was here, we spoke on a wide range of issues.
Yes, we did.
I did recognize a week after, or perhaps, but a week after, there was a letter in the Starbuck News in which the first vice president wrote, which saying that he felt that it is clear that the government have a hand in what we are doing. I want to make it very clear. The government of the day and as well as the president are decent people, and we will not allow Patrick Yard to try to drag the government into what is happening right now. What is happening right now is a plea for justice. It is why we want to ensure that we take back our union, and this is bigger than Patrick Yard, and we're not going to allow our government to be drawn into the middle.
Thank you very much for that, and I'm happy that you did say that and you did bring it to my attention, and I'd like to take this opportunity. I reached out to Mr. Hormanstein and Ms. Van Slytman Corbin, and now Ms. Torrington. Facing the Nation is open, so Mr. Yard, if yourself and team want to come here to bring your position, if your position is different to this team, I have no problem with that. In fact, what I will do, I will make contact with you next week and invite you on next week, Fridays Facing the Nation. So there will be no excuse, and there is no reason, again, as German did say, to drag the government of our nation into this. This is a union matter. unfortunately, we're going to have to leave this conversation right there for now. German and Shelfram still struggling with the pronunciation of our name. Thank you so very much for being on Facing the Nation.
Thank you very much.
I look forward to having you back when those results have been finalized. Maybe by then I'll be able to have yourself and the other team right here.
You will get the president.
Certainly. The president of the union.
Yes.
I look forward to it, whoever it is. All right, viewers, of course, stay tuned. Coming up on the second half, I did promise you a team from the University of Guyana, and we will be focusing on the School of Entrepreneurship and Business Innovation. And of course, the acronym for that is SEBI. This is Facing the Nation.